Welcome to Behind the Numbers, the podcast keeps you updated with football and the hobby. And what an exciting day it was at the first round of the NFL draft. I thought I'd just do a bonus episode for you guys, just kind of breaking it down from the hobby perspective and who got helped, who got hurt, what were some head scratchers, just the different news throughout the day that was a little bit interesting. And with that, let's just start with up to the draft. We started talking about Aaron Rodgers requesting to get out of Green Bay. I think that's a very big storyline. I really kind of shocked to hear it come out. I'm not shocked it came out this time, but I'm kind of shocked to hear it in general. I get the play, trying to do it the draft, trying to, get yourself a trade and see where it goes. But definitely was surprised how adamant the Rodgers camp is about wanting out of Green Bay. Coming off an MVP season, he's in a situation with a team that's like ready to win. It's just a very, very unique, interesting situation if it's still because of drafting Jordan Love, especially in the situation where he was drafted to be behind Brett Favre, and he sat behind Favre and then eventually took over. And I think respecting that process, respecting what it did for him, and Favre still had a career after. Maybe he's trying to do that as well, but the being angry about it, I think is a little bit. I think a little confusing to me. I just feel like he's had a lot of success there, and I think he has a couple years left there. So, but yeah, that's how the day started. Adam Schefter reporting he wanted out, and then from there we kind of got into the draft, which was it was really exciting. We had a lot of offensive talent come off the board, which is great for the hobby. We had 5 quarterbacks that did go in the top 15 picks, and all quarterbacks landed in places that they're going to play pretty soon, or they're in a really good situation. And I think that's going to be awesome for the hobby. There's going to be some really good values, some really fun products coming out for 2021 that's led with those 5 quarterbacks, and some really good talent after the quarterbacks as well that we can have some fun with. So just with that, I'm just going to work through the draft here a little bit, just kind of talk about each piece, kind of team by team. So like, for example, the Jaguars, obviously they took Trevor Lawrence as expected. But the one thing that we didn't really expect as much was they took Travis Etienne in the first round with their second pick, which kind of kills the James Robinson love. Unfortunately, I had a nice Robinson card actually today in a little select break, but that kind of kills that value for him, I think, a little bit. Not that he's going to be gone, but I think Travis Etienne will eventually be the guy. You don't take a running back the first round if you're not going to use him more than halftime. So definitely have their kind of running back of the future there, pairing him up with his quarterback that he was with, Trevor Lawrence. I think Jacksonville, it's a good move, getting him weapons. I think they do need to look at O-line and look at kind of solidifying that offense still. I know their defense is weaker. I just think with build the offense first. I don't think the Jags are going to be super competitive next year. They could be, but their defense has a lot of work to do. But they had some injuries. Josh Allen's coming back, C.J. Henderson developing, Kavion Jason, the DN. They have some talent over there that's young that could develop as well, so they could surprise some people. And then the Jets, the Jets did a pretty good job for, I was a little bit questionable trading Darnold, kind of starting over the quarterback position, but they had 2 first-round picks because they traded Jamal Adams. They got Zach Wilson with the guy that they just really fell in love with and really wanted. And with that, they also trade up and got the kind of top interior lineman, Elijah Tucker, out of USC, that really just kind of gives them a good piece of the offensive line, committing to building around Zach Wilson. So I was really impressed with them moving up to get that kind of last. I think there's 3 top tier linemen with Slater, Sewell, and Virgil Tucker. So I think the Jets did a good job there committing to building around Zach Wilson. So definitely a good first day for them. They have more picks to come. They gave up a little bit. Gave up 2/3 to move up and get him. And those thirds are in the top 100, so those picks will matter. But I think if you're getting that top tier alignment, I don't mind it. And I think it was a good move for Wilson. And then when the draft got interesting, the one that the kind of biggest question mark was, what were the Niners going to 3 for? To give my good friend Roy Dahlquist credit, he told me that he had a feeling it was going to be Trey Lance really early when people were confused, because right after Trey Lance's pro day, Sam Fran made that trade. So as soon as they saw him, they're like, yep. And that's what they did. And they stayed to it. And it looks like that's what happened. His hobby value is going to be very interesting. I really think that the San Fran situation is the best situation with the offensive mind and the talent he has around. And I'm not sure if he's going to play right away, but I do think once he gets going, that could be a very good long-term quarterback if he develops what San Fran believes he can. I think he probably is in the best landing spot. If we just take Lawrence off the table, since he's a different level of talent, I think Lance landed in the best spot possible with a very similar run throw skill set that, Josh Allen and even Trevor Lawrence has. So he does have a lot of upside there. And I think that San Fran will be the second most expensive team when it comes to PYTs, when we get into Prism and all of our breaks, Donruss and all that stuff starts coming out, I do see San Fran being that second team. After that, the Falcons, they went Kyle Pitts. So they said, we're going to roll with Matt Ryan for a couple more years. They took the elite talent of Kyle Pitts. He'll have some hobby value. He's a tight end, so that makes it tough, but he's not really not a tight end. He's really a receiver. So I do think he can put up some numbers, especially in fantasy. He'll be very attractive in fantasy. So he will get a little bit of love in the hobby as well. Jamar Chase, I really thought Cincinnati, for my feeling was OT. I thought going offensive tackle would have been really good for Burrow, but it seems like he wanted to reignite that connection with Jamar Chase, especially with AJ Green moving on. Even though he was kind of past his prime, he now has an elite number one receiver with really good supporting, T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, really good pass catchers they have there. And also a lot of offensive tacklers on the board for tomorrow. So I do think Cincinnati is in a good position to still get some good O-line for Burrow, but they went with the elite receiver, probably best on their board. I don't have a huge problem with it. I just thought OT was a little bit better. Maybe I wouldn't say a shock. A lot of people are kind of getting this way, but Jalen Waddle went over Devonta Smith to Miami. So again, pairing up the quarterback with his old teammate in Tua. So we got Tua, Jalen, you got Jamar Chase with back with Burrow, and then you got Travis Etienne staying with Trevor Lawrence. So it was kind of a stay with your friend type of draft. But Jalen Waddle's kind of exactly what Miami needs. They need somebody to stretch the field. Then he's a very good vertical threat that I think is needed to stretch that offense. Be really interesting to see what Miami does in the second round. They went defense with their second pick, but in the second round, I could see them potentially looking at running back or possibly another receiver. Some good receivers have slid to the second. So Miami has a lot of picks in the top 50, so there's still a lot to go for them in terms of what they're going to do for Tua. But definitely a good start. It's a good start in terms of Tua's value. I'll just mention the Lions because they took Penei Sewell. That's good for Swift. That's good, good for that team to build. So once they do get a quarterback after Goff, they got a nice anchor there. So I think just something to note, but I think that's good for Swift. I don't want to say head scratchers. I do like J.C. Horn, but the Panthers, they get Darnold, and we keep talking about getting him a little bit of help. They didn't get him help. They went defense this time, but the Panthers offenses, they got CMC, they got DJ Moore. Offensive line could have used a little bit of help. I thought Slater would have been a good pick for them there to kind of commit to helping Darnold. But overall, I think it's just a little bit of a different pick than we were expecting. Then Denver, a lot of people slotted possibly Justin Fields here, but Denver decided to go defense. So kind of they're maybe committed to lock for now, trying to feel out where they're going to go in that direction. But I thought Fields was going to go there when I saw that at the time. And then, a little interesting, Cowboys did make a trade with their rival, with the Eagles, letting them jump the Giants at the time to get Devonta Smith. It's, again, another guy landing with his old quarterback. He's back with Jalen Hurts, who actually he really liked and he spoke highly of when it came to talking about the difference between Tua and Hurts. The only thing that is kind of interesting about that for me is that Devonta Smith, he's been getting a lot of flack for being smaller, and Jalen Reagor's really small too. So they have really quick and really good receivers in terms of route running, but not much size with their receiving core. So Jalen's going to have to be really accurate. He's going to have to be really good with his timing. And for that to work out, they're going to have to really get on the same page in terms of just that kind of stuff, because they don't have a lot of room for air with the size and that, if you will. And then kind of the big trade of the night, Chicago gave up quite a bit of first-round pick in the future to come up to 11 with the Giants, where the Giants were in nab Justin Fields. Very interesting landing spot. I think Nagy is a good offensive mind out of Kansas City, so I do think it's a good landing spot. I think that, it has Allen Robinson, David Montgomery. Their O-line's kind of deteriorated over time with a lot of injuries. It's not as good as it used to be. If they can keep building that O-line, I do think that is a good situation. I mean, Andy Dalton's there now. They'll probably start Andy Dalton maybe in the beginning, if Fields isn't quite ready. But I still think overall, the Giants have a good defense. It's a pretty good situation for him to particularly develop. So I thought that was a good landing spot, and I kind of give props to the Bears for doing that. And he's going to be a good hobby chase, because it's our fourth quarterback off the board. The Bears will be people will kind of be all over it. In terms of Dallas, they took Micah Parsons. I'm only talking about Micah Parsons because I think that there's not a Chase Young in this draft, but if there is a defensive guy that might have a little bit of hobby value, it probably would be Micah Parsons, just because of his elite athleticism. He's got 4.39, 4.4 speed, could wreak havoc. And then also being on Dallas, he'll probably have a little bit of hobby value. Just if we're kind of looking at that Nick Bosa and that Chase Young, I think if this class is a little bit lower on the high end talent for defense, but if there is one, it would be him, in my opinion. And then Patriots just sat still. I think a lot of people have kind of connected the dots, Patriots with Mac Jones. A lot of comparisons to Brady in terms of just the pocket passer, super accurate, really knowledgeable, trying to make those parallels. And it turns out that, Patriots were thinking about trying to move up and decided to sit and wait, and then Mac Jones fell in their lap. Seems like where Mac Jones wanted to go. So again, the 5th quarterback in the top 15, and the Patriots are going to be chased as well because he's going to be a quarterback with. I don't know if the Patriots are a good situation because they don't have much talent in terms of receivers and running backs around him. But I do think if you trust the franchise that they can make it work and start getting some guys in there over time as they develop them, definitely that's a system that I still think Belichick's got a lot to prove. He wants to get that going with Brady gone. And I think that Mac Jones could be a step to doing that, which would be really good for his card values. Raiders went offensive tackle. Not much there. If can help Josh Jacobs. Kadarius Toney went to the Giants. I thought that was an interesting pick by the Giants. They moved back and took Toney. Toney's really has a lot to offer as a receiver. He's very explosive. But they signed Golladay. They have Sterling Shepard, so I wasn't sure if they were looking at receiver, but they decided to get a little bit younger. So that's good for Daniel Jones. He's got a lot of weapons. He's got 3, I would say, good to great receivers. I think Galladay's a really good receiver. So we'll see if that can get Daniel Jones going, and that could help his hobby value as well. The one that kind of was written in ink for a lot of people was Najee Harris to Pittsburgh, and he went there. A lot of people kind of compared his skill set to Le'Veon Bell, and just Steelers kind of saw that too, and looks like that's where they're going. So that could be a really interesting hobby play. I know we don't invest heavily into running backs, but when it comes to Pittsburgh running backs, he could be pretty big. I did kind of forget to mention that the Chargers did get the Rashawn Slater, which I love for Justin Herbert's stock. Rashawn Slater, him and Penei Sewell were kind of 1-2 offensive tackles of the class. To see Rashawn Slater go to the Chargers, I was really happy because I think that's going to be great for Herbert and keeping him up on an upright, because he took a lot of hits last year, and a lot of times people weren't sure if he could get up. I remember a couple of them on like 2-point conversion. People thought he was knocked out, but he was just laying there for a second. So those hits will continue to pile up, and you got to limit those, as we saw with Burrow, so we avoid major injury. So definitely happy about that. As we kind of work down here, we mentioned Travis Etienne. So Rashad Bateman went to the Ravens, giving Lamar Jackson a weapon. And I like this one actually quite a bit in the sense that it's actually a bigger receiver. They have Marquise Brown there. They have a lot of smaller receivers. They haven't really had any big targets for Lamar. So I think this is a guy that could fit in there and give them a nice X receiver feel on the outside, and just give him a bigger target. I think that's definitely what he was needing. And then if you didn't know, the Ravens did pick up another first-round pick. They traded their offensive tackle to Kansas City, who's in dire need of building that offensive line back up after the Tampa Bay thrashing. And they picked up just another defensive player with that, but Kansas City didn't have a first-round pick because of that. But, overall, in terms of the draft, it just seemed like that every quarterback kind of fell in an attractive spot for the hobby, which was really fun. We had, So we had 5 quarterbacks. We had a tight end that we call a receiver, and 4 receivers. 5 receivers, Toney and Bateman. So 5 receivers and 2 running backs. So, we're looking at 12 offensive skill players that are great for the hobby. Actually 13 with Pitts, and tomorrow is going to be even better. So I just wanted to give you guys a really quick rundown of kind of my thoughts and who got helped and who got hurt. We'll keep our ears open with the Rodgers news and see if he comes with that, or if it's just going to be a kind of stall out. It sounds like the GM just came out a couple of minutes ago actually, and just saying, hey, we're not going to trade Rodgers. So we'll see how that goes over time. But other than that, I'm really excited for tomorrow, and I hope you guys enjoy the draft. Thanks for tuning in.